Alright, welcome back to my scenario, where civilization starts over. Oh, again, I was supposed to finish the 6th episode, but my computer crashed. Well, it didn't crash, I just forgot to save it. So, basically, I'm restarting a new one. And, obviously, we're going to start... We're obviously going to start in Bulgaria. Yes, in Bulgaria. Anyway, the first nation will be created. This will obviously have the color red. That's gonna be annoying. What? They're going to be exploring to here. They're going to be exploring to here. I should probably add, like, where humans are. Okay, so, like, humans are, like, in Africa, they're, like, north. They're not in, like, north Sweden, but like, yeah. So at this point, humans have reached a distance of about here. But like, the red team doesn't know that. And the red team is actually going to expand all the way out into Crimea. But weirdly, they start retreating. And eventually, they get into the region of Crimea. But they would eventually resettle back in Bulgaria. But eventually, there'd be two nations, a red team and a blue team. The red team would disappear after that. But the blue team, oddly, they would nearly just die as well. With them only having a few port cities. But then they'd return, all back to normal. And this is one of the mysteries that, like, nobody would want to know what it'd be about, because, like, people are scared. So yeah, it's weird. Eventually, they build a capital right here. Major cities. So, like, that old red team, like, what happened to it? What happened? Why did it just have such a big rise and such a big fall? Nobody knows. Not even, like, people of the blue team. Not even, like, nomads. I mean, like, people, like, over here know about the blue team. They probably were citizens of the blue team. Also, humans explore over in India. And, like, Bengal. And then Africa, Sahara, Northern Europe, and South Asia. Southeast Asia, I should say. Not South Asia. South Asia's here. Why do I keep calling this region South Asia? It's not South Asia. This is South Asia. Anyways, the blue team is going to explore throughout all the Black Sea, even to Cyprus and all of Anatolia. They would expand further right here. And eventually, there are 4 merchants who I will be talking about right now. They'd meet right here, which is actually a colony of the blue team. Basically, they talk about, like, exploring the world and trying to find more stuff about the world. And one of them said, we should split into groups. One of them founds a city like here, another one here, another one here, and another one here. A deal? A deal. And basically, they do that. They go into the center of the Black Sea, and they spread out. Eventually, more people come to this first city. A few people go to this one. Few people go to this one. Wait, hold on. Few people go to this one. And a few people go, what color should I use? Pink. Few people go to this one. Now, these are very, very basic foundations and cities. They're not big. They're not like they're not, like, important at all. Some of them are, but, like, they pale in comparison to the blue team. But that changes when one little merchant from the blue team goes into the purple team's capital and they say, hey, leader of the purple team, if we get to set up a trade network between each other, because you have a very good position, I will give you a fifth of my resources. Deal? Deal. And they deal it out. Yeah. Because of this, they'll expand slightly. And because of that, they're going to have a few more major cities. That's the background. So there are a few major cities, like out here. Yeah. I should put capitals on. So yeah, this purple country is like very, like, they are very technologically advanced. Because of the fact that they have so much influence from the blue team, and they already have so much resources themselves, they're actually stripping the blue team of their resources, which is going to cause them to kind of die out a little bit. But not completely. Not completely. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. They won't die out completely, but they will be reduced to a single peninsula. Hold on. And, like, now, basically, the purple team is the new blue team. Their whole thing is, like, they now have a whole new thing to deal with. They don't have competition, like, at all. All of their neighbors are weak. All their neighbors are just weak. They're weak nations. They're weak. They're weak! Yeah, the purple team then begins to expand into the Greek islands, expanding into Anatolia a bit. And, oh, yeah. So, the blue team, they will entirely disappear. But not in the reason that you think. Not for the reason that you think. So, Some people of the blue team, they migrate west, hoping to find a better place to create their nation, and they find some, like, peninsula in Italy. It's not actually in Italy, it's technically, wait, it's in Croatia. But basically, this is kind of like Venice. This nation is kind of going to be like Venice, if you really think about it. Like, look, I mean, just look at it. It looks like Venice, okay? It looks like Venice. And major cities. Bup, 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 bup. Capitals. And some will go out a little bit east. Just a little bit east. Where they'll create this nation. And, so basically we have three major powers. The medium blue team, the purple team, and the dark blue team. All of them have an influence over each other. So, yeah. But the first thing that will happen the blue team is going to focus on the coast and have a lot of grease. But the purple team already had settlements there. And you know what happens when there's occupied territory in both areas? Wartime. The purple team would start invading the occupied areas of the blue team. And this would immediately start a war between them. They would go north, north, and north. No one would help the blue team, like, at all, until a large force, a large random force from some unknown place managed to make them push back all the way to Greece again. Now, these people, they do not look European, they look African. But here's the thing, it couldn't have been from Africa. They couldn't have been from, like, Africa. Here's the thing, Africa doesn't really have, like, a lot of people, so it wouldn't be, like, one of the tribesmen. it would have been something else, something from another higher power, something that we don't know about yet. Maybe that'll be important later. But for now, we only have all these. We have all these nations. And that's cool. That's cool. Okay, I should probably put make like a century later. Century later. Yep. That's what it's called. Not Windings. Windings. I use Windings for something else. I'm gonna use Onyx. No. Okay, so each episode is basically just going to be a century, if you really think about it. Yeah. Anyways, because of this, the blue team would actually, because of the war, the blue team would actually profit off of the war, making their economy even stronger and allowing them to have another war with them, intentionally having imperialist ambitions on them. And eventually causing them to lose their capital city. They lost their leader, and they'd surrender. Losing their capital. Well, their capital was already lost, but what? My brain isn't working. So now the blue team's empire is, really big. And, I don't know about you, but I don't think anybody can do anything about this. Why am I saying it like this? You can't just have a big empire like this. But they're saying, oh, you can. You sure can. You sure can. Also, they discover all the Mediterranean for the funnies. They started landing in Corsica and Sardinia. And North Africa. Well, wait. Bro, what? My brain is broken. My brain is broken. Anyways, they're going to be landing over in Spain. Creating a little colony, creating Mallorca, colonizing Mallorca. Jeez, why? They'll also discover France. But not before a small uprising begins. Small uprising in the east. The Eastern Uprising. That's what we're gonna name it. That's what we're gonna name it now. We're gonna name it the Eastern Uprising. Because it's Eastern and it's an uprising. It eventually spreads to Anatolia, the Dodecanese, Crete, southern Greece. And then both halves of the empire fall. I'm talking too fast. That's the issue. And immediately, this Eastern Empire will begin to, you guys should call it the Eastern Empire, man. It should be official, alright? Anyways, they conquer this nation and just go on a rampage in Anatolia. But to remember, they still had Crimea. You notice that they still had Crimea? Yeah, that wasn't a mistake, little buddy. That was intentional. It's intentional. Anyways, both halves of the empire want to have all both halves of the empire wanted to control all of it. Alright? They wanted to control all of it. But, except, here's a small little problem for you. The western half can't exactly control their empire very well. Sure, they are the largest one out of all of them. They control all of Spain. But, they can't, control it well enough so that, all other regions get to have the same people. Because remember, we still have this great population, which is actually humans. And if any country expands into the great population, they're at risk. Well, if they do it too fast, they're at risk of collapsing that region. So, it's a problem. They also found major cities. And no, I don't mean find. I meant found. I mean found. Alright? Build. And eventually, a little collectivist nation forms right here. They're not going to have a capital for now. They might eventually, but they're not going to have a capital right now. So, they're basically just going to be France. They're going to find the Putty River. And they're going to have frequent attacks on the Western Empire. This is kind of like Rome, if you really think about it. This is kind of like Rome. But yeah, this nation just like bombards like major cities. Like, this is basically like their voyage. Yeah, that's basically it. But yeah. And these people, I'm just going to call them Venetians because they're basically Venetians. They're going to lose a lot of land in Spain. This is going to drastically lower their, like, all their, like, economy and stuff like that. Eventually, the Eastern Empire begins to invade the Western Empire. The Western Empire does all they can but after naval invasion right here, they realize they can't hold on to anything anymore, and they're going to surrender. They're going to lose all of this territory. This is going to be such a huge loss for them. And eventually, uprisings start occurring in the south, where this empire starts invading, like, Spain and Catalonia and Sardinia and Sicily. And eventually, after landing in the boot, they surrender, losing all of this. And, like, now the blue team realizes, oh, we're screwed. We're screwed. We can't do anything about this. We're just gonna be attacked and attacked over and over again. But, you know, we're gonna do the best that we can. Until, obviously, they receive, like, 1 billion bombardments from the, they're basically the Gauls. Yeah. And then another nation forms out of the ashes. Where's their capital gonna be? Yes, this is going to be another Roman nation. I know. So beautiful. They're going to have frequent wars with their neighbors. That's definitely going to be... They're definitely going to be annoyance in the near future. So, yeah. But then the Eastern Empire starts exploring, intentionally exploring, like Iran and stuff. And guess what? They're also going to be expanding their empire. And actually, there was about to be a nation that was going to form here that wasn't descendant. Like, their people wasn't descended from, like, anyone else other than, like the old empire. Now, I don't mean like the Wixo old empire. I mean like our version of the old empire, basically. Anyways, the Eastern Empire is going to expand into the Fertile Crescent. And, what? Oh, yeah, right. Okay, this nation is one of the major nations. They're going to heavily expand into their borders. That's going to be it, I guess. See you in the next one. Bye. First off, I think we should probably change the map a little bit. With, where humans are. Most humans are everywhere at this point. Except for very specific regions, including Antarctica. Antarctica is actually going to be quite important in, like, the last few episodes. So, basically, with the Eastern Empire now having a significant portion of just the world, they're going to be expanding west. They're also going to be expanding north. Whoa, okay. And they're going to cross this river, eventually having the conquest of the north, which would include major tribes right here, and the annexation of that yellow country. Wait, capitals. Okay, good. And they're going to be expanding past the Carpathians. And they're going to be adding a few major cities. Oh my god, I forgot to add major cities to here, to Mesopotamia. Well, that's annoying. Oh yeah, and also Italy. Italy is quite important. And France. Also, France is going to get a capital. Which is going to be here. But yes, the Eastern Empire is now larger than the Western Empire was. The Western Empire was pretty big, but the Eastern Empire is even larger. And, yeah, they're gonna claim this title for a while. I've never used the colonies later. I don't think I should use the colonies later. So basically, we have like a boat, and it's going here. Actually, it's going to the island of Elba. And they're going to occupy the island. Now, the island of Elba is very important to the Algerian country. So there will obviously be fights in the Mediterranean. But that would eventually turn into a war between the two. Now, the Italian nation already prepared on this. What the? So they will be attacking Sicily. Obviously, very important island to the Algerian country. And they're just going to be a nuisance. There's like, you think they're going to die, but like they're not. They're not at all. And then the Eastern Empire is like, wait a minute, the Algerian country? You're attacking the Algerian country. May I join? And the Italian nation will say yes. Because they genuinely do not like the Algerian country. Same with the Eastern Empire. The Eastern Empire hates the Algerian country, so they're going to go to war. And the first offenses will actually not be like actual fences into the actual nation. Instead, it's going to be settlementation, further settlementation in Libya. And then they would start occupying parts. But they'd slow down, like right here. As the Western Empire is like, wait, there's a really big empire going on in the Mediterranean. And I need to restore my empire right now. I'm gonna join. And so the Western Empire is going to declare war on Italy, making them declare war on the Eastern Empire. And this is where we're going to have our first alliances. First Empire, the first alliance is going to be between the Eastern Empire and Italy. This is basically just going to be the coalition against the Algerian country. But because the Western Empire is now at war with the Mediterranean country, the Western Empire is like, hey, you want to make our own faction? And they say yes. And now we have our first rivaling alliances. And based on just size alone, you can probably tell who's going to win. But it's actually probably not going to be as obvious as you think. Because the Western Empire will actually push heavily into Italy. Remember, they still have a very large army, so they're going to be able to take the capital pretty fast. And after this major city and this major city, this major city, they're going to surrender. And this is going to distract the Eastern Empire because, they just lost their only ally. Algeria will take advantage of this and occupy southern Italy. And the lands would be occupied by the Eastern Empire. Now, the Eastern Empire would push back a little bit. Now, if you know anything about the Eastern Empire, They are very... How can I say this? They are very determined. But it's actually a little bit difficult to be determined because, well, they just got pushed back. And now they're getting pushed back through Libya. And now they're like, oh no, like we're losing. We gotta do something about this. And so they're going to hold on to Italy for the future. But over in Illyria, the Western Empire is going to push further and further into Serbia and Albania and just the Balkans. And this is where most of the front lines stop. Nothing really happens. The Western Empire thinks they have their empire back. They have their old empire back. They're just going to have to unify with this nation and take over Spain again. And just hope the French don't attack them again. And they're going to be good. And, you know how, they're going to hold this? Well, this was a very major offensive that took, like, 2 months to do. This right here in Albania. And this actually caused them to enter into Italy through there and caused them to basically stop that front. And now, like, they're cooked. Like they can't do anything about this. They genuinely cannot do anything about this unless France does something about this, which France is kind of neutral right now. They're just kind of focusing on developing. And so one of the most major offensives begins in Greece. Specifically in Peloponnese and the Dodecanese, the Elanese, the Elananese, whatever it's called, I don't know. And this appears to be the end for the Eastern Empire. The Eastern Empire is officially dead. Like, they just lost Greece. Like, that was, like, their most important thing. And so begins the 2-year offensive, which would start by pulling in the north and then slowly going south and then going into Thessaloniki from the south and taking Thessaloniki, slowly moving east They drag Bulgaria, they drag the whole thing, whole front here, out of the war. Basically out of this whole offensive. And basically, they've now encircled Thrace. There's basically no chance at reinforcements. Until something happens. Protests start occurring in Italy. Protests so wild, so against the ruling of the Western Empire. They're a tyrant of a ruler, that they form their own sort of thing. They want to bring back Italy back. They want to bring back Italy. Italy has been under the Western Empire for too long. 5 years too long, alright? I know that might sound like a long time. That might not sound like a long time, but it is. And the Western Empire basically makes their final move by trying to pass through the Carpathians and the Danube, even though it is extremely difficult, through the very harsh mountains and such a big river. They just barely make it. But it's already too late. The Italians are already forcing... Well, they're not forcing, but like, they're threatening the capital. And they have an offensive into Sicily and Malta. And then, now, we begin the final stretch of the 2-year offensive. Small offensives are made. Every push matters in this case. Every single advancement. Every single naval landing. More reinforcements come in. This last encirclement destroys off the army. I need the capitals to be off for this. And now, the Battle of the Bosphorus Strait. They're literally spitting distance away from the capital. When another nation forms. Takes their capital. Spreads their influence to here. Italy goes north. But the Eastern Empire starts pushing into their own territory again. The Eastern Empire surrenders. The Eastern Empire, I mean the Western Empire. The Western Empire surrenders. Now it's only the Mediterranean nation. They slowly get pushed into Tunisia, and they get captured. So, I'll now cut here to the peace deal. And these are now the new borders of Europe. Lots of things have changed since the beginnings of the Western Empire. Well, rather, the extent of the Western Empire on. Alright. Stuff like that. Actually, but like in Anatolia, both in North Africa, both the West Empire, both in going to be landing over in. But they also discovered France. Okay, so this was the extent of the Western Empire. Look at how big they were. This is when the first time I called the Eastern Empire the Eastern Empire. Oh, how you changed! So because there's no Western Empire, and there's no Algeria, we now just have the Diamond Alliance. And there will now be a few more members. This will be the this will be the blue country, the green country, and the red country. That's basically all the major nations now. Oh, yeah, except Spain. But Spain doesn't really have a whole lot of population right now, so it's their big problem. So because of this new land, the Eastern Empire will expand south. They'll not only discover south, but they'll also expand south. And also Ethiopia and the rest of Arabia. That's a pretty big empire, if I do say so myself. That's larger than the Romans. Anyways, over in the north, we will have a few more nations be created. These are going to be the Germanic tribes, basically. These are basically just going to be German tribes. Yeah. So, yeah, that's basically it. Hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.